Hey, welcome to Shift. I'm Elliot, and this is where we hit life's shortcut keys together. You know how on your computer you've got these incredible shortcuts, like Ctrl+S to save your work, or Ctrl+C to copy that perfect sentence? Well, here at Shift, we're doing the same thing, but for life. Each shortcut is like a small intentional reminder, a quick hack, a mental reset button for how we think, feel, and live. Today's shortcut is Ctrl+H, and we're diving deep into the theme of healing childhood wounds. Now, when you hear childhood wounds, you might picture something dramatic, but honestly, most of us are walking around with smaller, less visible injuries. Maybe it's the lingering sting of a teacher's dismissive comment. Maybe it's a core belief that you're too much or not enough, learned because a parent was stressed or simply unavailable. Maybe, like me, you find yourself reacting to small disagreements with the emotional intensity of a 5-year-old being told they can't have ice cream for breakfast. We're not talking about assigning blame here. We're talking about acknowledging the source code of our current reactions. Ever wished you could just find the root of an emotional habit and replace it? That frustrating loop of procrastination, the sudden anxiety in relationships, the urge to people-please until you're exhausted? It's often a piece of old, unaddressed history. Well, what if I told you there's a shortcut for getting in there, finding that old code, and replacing it with something functional, something helpful, something that lets you stop running the ancient buggy version of yourself? That's what Ctrl+H is for. All right, so what does Ctrl+H actually do on your computer? Simple. It opens the Find and Replace function. You type in a word you want to find. Maybe you wrote color with a U 300 times in a document and suddenly realize you need to switch to American spelling. Then you type in the word you want to replace it with, color. You hit Replace All and boom, 300 corrections are made instantly. You didn't have to scroll through and fix each one. You identified the repeating pattern, defined the replacement, and executed the change system-wide. It's about recognizing a persistent, unwanted pattern and swapping it out for a new, desired one, all at once. And in life, Ctrl+H is a reminder of this powerful concept. Identify the pattern, define the replacement, and execute the change. Our emotional and relational lives are built on scripts, the instructions we received and absorbed when we were kids about how the world works, how love works, and how we work. These scripts are running in the background, influencing our decisions, our mood, and our reactions. Think of those old childhood wounds, the little unnoticed hurts, as unwanted, outdated code in your operating system. Maybe the code says, find, any mistake means I'm a failure. Replace, any mistake means I'm a failure. You keep running the same self-sabotaging program. The goal of Ctrl+H isn't to delete your history. It's to find the painful, repeating interpretation of that history and replace it with a more compassionate adult understanding. We're not erasing the experience. We're replacing the lesson we took away from it. All right, let's expand this into 3 major talking points for how to actually press Ctrl+H on your inner script. Number 1, find. Identify the trigger and the lie it tells. You can't replace something until you know what you're looking for. The first step in hitting emotional Ctrl+H is to stop getting lost in the feeling and start identifying the trigger and the core belief or the lie it's repeating. When we get disproportionately upset about something small, a text message that goes unanswered, a partner forgetting to do a chore, a colleague not including us in an email, that's not an adult reaction. That's usually a child part of us being reactivated. Here's the story. I had this moment a few weeks ago with my 5-year-old Clara. I was racing a work deadline, completely focused, and she came up and asked me to help her find a specific art supply. I snapped a little, something like, "Clara, I'm working. Can't you see I'm busy? Just look for it yourself." The tears welled up immediately, I immediately regretted it, and I apologized. But later that night, I thought about my own reaction. Why did a simple request feel like such an attack on my time? My trigger, the find word, was unreasonable demand. And the lie it was telling me, it was the core belief I picked up growing up in a very busy household. My needs are secondary to what I'm currently producing. That old, outdated script was still running. You only have value when you're productive. Interruption is a threat to your value. The pattern recognition here is key. The moment you feel that disproportionate, ancient reaction, you pause and ask, what is the real lie I'm being told right now? That's your find word. Number 2, replace. Write the adult counter script. Once you've identified the core belief, that old code, you need to write the replacement. This isn't just a generic affirmation. It has to be a specific, honest, and grounded statement written by your adult self for your wounded child self. Let's go back to my scenario. The find word was the lie, you only have value when you're productive. The replace word, the adult counter script, is, my inherent value is not tied to my productivity. I am allowed to set boundaries without being rude. My work is important, but my relationships and presence are more important. The Ctrl H function doesn't work if you leave the replacement box empty. You have to fill it with something better. Here's the second mini-story, this time on a relationship note. A good friend of mine was constantly getting upset when his girlfriend didn't immediately text him back. He would spiral into anxiety, assuming she was mad or planning to leave him. He traced it back to a pattern where his primary caregiver was often silent or withdrawn as a form of punishment. His find word was silence, and the lie? Silence means abandonment is imminent. His replace script, which he now repeats to himself when he sees the 3 dots flashing on his phone, is, silence is not abandonment. She is an adult with her own life, and a delayed response simply means she is busy, not that I am unimportant. Notice the difference? It's not just I am safe, it's specific to the trigger and provides a logical adult explanation to soothe the emotional panicked child. That's the real power of the Ctrl H replacement. Now, for the hardest part, hitting replace all. In a document, it's one click. In life, it's about conscious, consistent repetition and testing the new code with boundaries. Your brain is a repetition machine. You ran the old code for 10, 20, 30 years. It will take time to install the new one. The execution phase means that every single time you feel the trigger, you consciously interrupt the old script and run the new script. This is where the Ctrl H metaphor truly shines. You don't fix all 300 instances of the mistake in your life before you execute the replacement. You execute it, and then you trust that the system will run the new code. The repetition is the test. Every time you consciously choose the adult reaction over the panicked child one, you are affirming the new code. The boundary test is crucial. We learn our childhood wounds often by crossing boundaries or having boundaries crossed. Healing requires setting and holding new boundaries that the old code wouldn't allow. For my friend with the text anxiety, his boundary was, I will not send a follow-up text for at least 4 hours after my initial text if she hasn't responded, and I will use that time to run my silence is not abandonment script. He forced himself to let the new code run. For me, the boundary is setting clear, non-negotiable work hours, and when those hours are over, putting the laptop away and being present with Lucy and Clara. I am enforcing the truth that my value is not tied to the next email I send. I am intentionally creating a life where the new script is the only one that can run. This is where the rubber meets the road. Ctrl plus H is not just a thought exercise. It requires a real-life shift in behavior to solidify the new belief. All right, so we've talked about the theory, identifying the find word, writing the replace script. But how do we actually apply this in real life, starting right now? Because personal growth shouldn't feel like building a spaceship. It should feel like installing a quick software update. Here are 3 simple, practical steps. We can call them your Ctrl plus H toolkit to help you get started on finding and replacing your inner code. 1. Start a trigger log. This is the most crucial piece of detective work you'll do. You can't replace something until you know exactly what it is. I want you to start a trigger log. You don't need a fancy journal, a note on your phone, or a napkin will do. Keep it simple. When you have a reaction that feels disproportionate to the event, that little internal explosion over a traffic jam, or a silly comment, or in my case, a full-blown internal crisis because my 3-year-old Lucy put shoes on the cat again. Write it down. Use 3 columns or 3 quick bullet points. The event, what actually happened. For example, partner forgot to start the dishwasher. The reaction, emotion, what did I feel? For example, rage, feeling unseen. The core lie, the find word. What is the child self believing right now? For example, I am taken for granted. My effort is invisible. Just identifying that lie, just naming that core assumption that's driving the panic, is genuinely 50% of the work. Once you see the lie, you can't unsee it. That's your find function completed. 2. Create a healing hotkey. Once you have your find word, you need your replace word, and it needs to be accessible in a panic. Let's call this your healing hotkey. Choose a short, powerful phrase for your replace script. Make it a single adult sentence you can deploy instantly. It should be the truth that contradicts the lie. For the taken for granted lie, maybe your hotkey is, my worth is inherent, not earned through chores. You can use something more general too, like, that was the past, this is the present. Or my favorite productivity version, my feelings are valid, but my reaction is optional. The moment you feel the trigger, that heat of disproportionate anger or anxiety, say your hotkey out loud or in your head. It's a verbal interrupt to the old spiraling code. It stops the program from running. It's the micro-pause that saves your day. 3. The micro-boundary test. Remember, hitting replace all in life means acting differently. We have to test the new code to make sure it sticks. This week, I want you to pick one tiny boundary to practice that contradicts your core lie. If your core lie is, I have to say yes to be liked, your boundary test is simple. Say, let me check my calendar to one non-essential request. Not no, just I'll get back to you. You're creating space to prove you won't be abandoned for pausing. If your core lie is, I have to be perfect, a big one for me as a recovering tech writer, your test is, leave one small thing unfinished today. A dusty corner, an unread email, a slightly crooked picture frame, and resist the urge to fix it. Just let the imperfect reality exist. You are proving that the world does not end when you are not flawless. Keep it simple, folks. No need to overthink it. Small, intentional shifts add up to monumental change. The adult version of you is the only one who can truly heal the child version of you. Keep it simple. No need to overthink it. Small, intentional shifts add up to big change. The adult version of you is the one who can heal the child version of you. Here's your challenge for the week, if you're up for it. Think of it like a full system refresh. Your challenge, the Ctrl plus H self-talk audit. Every morning this week, before you look at your phone, ask yourself, What is the one story I'm telling myself today that is not true? Maybe it's, I'm going to fail at this big meeting. Find failure is guaranteed. Maybe it's, my partner is mad at me. Find, I am a source of conflict. Identify that one nagging, unhelpful lie. Then write out the adult counterscript, the replace word, and put it somewhere you'll see it all day, like a sticky note on your laptop or a lock screen image. Anytime you feel that specific anxiety or self-doubt today, you hit your internal Ctrl H and read your replacement script. Just for a week, see how much quieter your inner critic gets. Thanks for hanging out with me today on Shift. It takes courage to look at the old code that's running our lives, and even more courage to decide to replace it. We're all works in progress, and sometimes the best growth comes from the least dramatic, most intentional actions. If this episode clicked for you, make sure to subscribe, share it with a friend who might need a little Ctrl H this week, and keep pressing those shortcut keys in life. Next time, we'll be exploring Ctrl Z, all about undoing toxic self-talk and learning to forgive ourselves when we mess up. It's a perfect follow-up to this week's theme. Until then, keep it light, keep it real, and remember, sometimes all you need is a little shift.